Alrighty, guys, welcome in here. We got a special edition, little Zoom podcast happening right now. I'm Matt Santalari, one half of the Wicked Philthy tag team, and we have Alex McGinnis on the show tonight, the other half of Wicked Philthy, and we got Christian Woods joining us here, live from Philadelphia, but you wouldn't know it as he's sitting there chilling at the Golden Gate Bridge. We don't even know where at the Golden Gate Bridge, but he's hanging.
We're Bay Area. We're fans of the Bay Area over here.
There we go.
All right.
So basically with the show here, we're going to kind of get through it and talk a little bit of the NFL stuff that's going on. I don't know if you noticed the background that's behind me, but it is the 2020 NFL draft, the draft that will not be taking place in a week here. This great artist rendering has been made useless because it will definitely be a virtual draft that's happening. But that doesn't mean that our teams aren't basically going ahead and trying to figure out who the future of the franchises are going to be. We got first-round picks for both the Patriots and the Eagles there in the 20s. Obviously, the Niners made the Super Bowl. They got that pick at the back half of the first round, and they traded DeForest Buckner. So they got that pick there at 13 as well. So got two picks to talk about from the Niners' perspective.
That trade felt so good because it's nothing feels better than getting something for someone who's not going to be on your team. They didn't even have to do that. They could have gotten him as a free agent. I'm trying to figure out what roofies this guy John Lynch is selling to people, giving to these people. They're doing anything he says.
I mean, after the Eric Armstead contract went through, it was basically writing on the wall that they weren't going to be able to afford DeForest Buckner too.
Exactly.
I'm still trying to figure out the Mitch Trubisky thing and how they pulled that off. Like you move up one spot to take a guy that the team ahead of you is not going to take.
It was highway robbery.
Trubisky, oh Lord. Trubisky can make anybody seem like they suck. Like all of his receivers, you feel bad for him because you see him on you see people talking about Trey Burton, he just got cut. And it's like, well, he doesn't suck. It's the guy throwing it to him. That's terrible.
Just he's literally just costing other people their jobs, and it's not fair. Honestly, even if Kevin White was healthy enough to find his way onto a football field for however many years it took him to finally get out there.
That guy. We haven't seen the same song and dance with receivers that come out of West Virginia. They were stupid for doing that.
That was bad. That was definitely bad. But yeah, so I mean, we'll kind of lead it off a little bit there at the top end of the draft, just kind of get through it. So quarterbacks. I mean, that's kind of what the draft is kind of looking like. It's aiming up to be there at the top. Got Joe Burrow, a guy who I had said was probably going to be a first-round draft pick, the first overall pick a few months ago there as LSU was going on that tear even before the Tua injury. And it was all because, Cincinnati looked like they were going to be the team picking number one overall. He's an Ohio kid. It was pretty easy to kind of match that up. Plus, just philosophy-wise, I think Burrow can come in and do everything that Andy Dalton does, but maybe at a higher level. And you're talking Zach Taylor's offense. I feel like Burrow would be a matchup to be able to run that type of offense there for Cincinnati. A guy who you can label as your franchise guy and you would be okay with it as well. I don't know how you guys feel about Burrow, but I was pretty high on him, and I'm still high on him going forward. But I'm not quite sure if he's going to be the best quarterback coming out of this draft. I do think he does have the highest floor of all the guys, though, and that's not even a consideration.
I think system-wise, he reminds me of this year reminds me very much of when the last time Cincinnati had the first overall pick when they took Carson Palmer. It's one of those situations where he had such a great college year that it didn't matter who was on the board with him. Because just like you said, we don't know if Burrow's going to be the best quarterback because I don't think he's the most talented quarterback out of the class. But I mean, when you go 60-6 touchdowns to interceptions and you play in the SEC, it doesn't really matter who. It doesn't matter unless you're playing in Mike Leach's offense. You're gonna go number one. It's not. That's my take. I think it's pretty clear. I think he's gonna be really good too. You can't debate with 60-6, man. That's 10-1 touchdown or interceptions, and he won everything.
Yeah,
everything. You can't. It's hard to argue with that. It's hard to even if Tua was healthy, it's still a 50-50 bridge here. It's Burrow even showed he had mobility. I didn't even know he could move. He can move. So there's nothing on the tape. The tape of last season just solidifies it. He just easily easily has to go one. So,
No,
but like, the only argument you could use against him is the whole sample size thing, 1 year. But you pretty much have 1 or 2 years for most of these guys anyway to look at. So you're going to roll the dice on not picking a guy just because he only did it in his junior year.
But the 1 year thing also isn't – I mean, sometimes nowadays it's not a knock. I mean, you've seen it. You've seen Baker Mayfield. I mean, even though he had a long career, he had one really great year.
Right.
Same with Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray only played for 1 year. And then Cam Newton is the guy who actually, like, started that trend, you know, where it's like 1 year. And it's not just the 1 year. It's like they literally played flawless football for 13 games. That's, to me, is just insane to even think.
No, 100%. It makes perfect sense for Joe Burrow there. He says the right things. He plays the part. He's the kind of guy who, again, just from a franchise building perspective, you would say, hey, I can definitely build around this guy, and he could be a guy who I'm going to have for the foreseeable future and feel really good about it. So that makes a whole heck of a lot of sense.
He also had three NFL receivers and an NFL tight end and a couple of really good offensive linemen and a really good running back. So, I mean, I'm not trying to like, you know, shit on his parade or anything of the sort, but
no.
You know, it's some guy that happens sometimes where guys are beneficiaries of having tons of talent around them. So it can be a catch-22. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, and I also think he's really smart. The Wonderlic score was off the charts.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's just the kind of guy, the Wonderlic score. That's my favorite thing in the entire world is just like, exactly. It's like there was a revised one. I don't know if it was Daniel Jeremiah. I can't remember who it was who put it out, but somebody put out, oh, these are the actual, I think it was Albert Breer. And at the top of the list was Brian Lewerke. Like, who the fuck cares what Brian Lewerke's Wonderlic score is? Like, Jake Luton. Like, I don't care what those dudes scored there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just the fact that they scored high and Tua is at like a 19 or whatever.
Right. Tua was at like a 12.
Like, get out of here.
It was pretty bad. I was like, damn.
No, I mean, it's all sample size. It's all data stuff. I'm not saying that it in a vacuum that when you're piecing it all together that it's not, you know, important,
hey, bro,
but it's not the end all be all by
Derrick Rose couldn't break 1,000 on his SATs. And personally, I don't care.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, it's not Vince Young scoring a 7. You know what I mean? Like, there's
a six. He had a 6. He scored a 6.
I'm trying to help my man out. All right.
Damn, right. So, you think after a Heisman and national championship, they'd be able to figure out a way to not get that released?
Oh man. But yeah. So yeah, all that stuff all aside, I agree with you though. When you're talking about guys who you would say, you know, I'm not quite confident he's going to be the best. And I think the name that's been out there is obviously Tua. I think Tua did it for a while. When he stepped on in, he closed out that national championship game and kind of took center stage going forward. It's all about medicals. It's all about health. And it's obviously everything's a calculated risk when it comes down to it. So it just depends on, you know, where you feel like the risk basically comes into play for your team. I think Tua could be the best quarterback out of this class.
I think he is.
It all has to – the medicals, though, as, you know, you could say inconsequential as they may be when it comes to whether or not you want to pick him in the top 10 because his talent obviously was there and you know he's going to be good going forward. I think it does matter for projecting him going forward because, hey, I mean, we've seen players have it all but just can't get on the field, and that's a big difference. And the hip thing, it's not about the combine videos he puts out of him, like, out there working and throwing passes to nobody.
Because he got hit on that play.
Exactly. So it's all about, again, I want to see him when he gets hit. I want to see how he reacts to it. And the hip thing, it's a tough thing to really even gauge until maybe a year from now, until we can see how that kind of, healing process basically took place. So that's the scary part with Tua.
I agree, but if I'm any team after the Bengals, and this includes the Washington Redskins, I would take Tua. I think he's this might me personally. I see him. He's Drew Brees with mobility. And I've not seen a college quarterback ever just accuracy, can throw from any platform, can move. I don't care. He could have a torn ACL in both knees right now, and I would take him over the other. I would take him over Justin Herbert. We'll get to that. We'll get to him, but
my thing with guys that are, especially young guys, like you're coming into a draft, and unless it's like even jumping into the NBA with like Joel Embiid coming out with the foot and the navicular bone and the worries over that, these guys have opportunities to heal and play beyond that, like for a team that needs a quarterback, like if you need a quarterback and you're going to avoid Tua just because you think that he might get hurt or he might, like a guy like Matt Stafford struggled for years to get on the field, and he's
First
not
two
even,
seasons, he only played 4 games.
right. He's not even on the level of like what you think Tua could become.
Well, hold on. I got a soft spot for Matt Stafford.
Nah.
Hold on now.
But
Listen, when it arm talent wise, Stafford's top 5 in the NFL. And I don't think the thing is he's stuck with a terrible organization.
Oh well, yeah, he's in a terrible
Matt Patricia's also a fucking idiot. I'm sorry. There's no nice way to put this. I don't know if this is like a family friendly show, but listen.
Not when it comes to the Patriots.
Like you draft Kerryon Johnson to not give him the ball. I get it. We're gonna run the ball, and then you literally the first 3 games, the Detroit Lions threw the ball more than any team in the entire NFL. He literally said that.
1-1-1.
We're gonna run the ball. We're gonna play defense. And the first 3 games, he literally threw the ball 28 times more than any other NFL team.
Basically, Matt Patricia's Brett Brown. Goddamn.
I'm a Sixer fan, so I gotta stop giving Brett Brown passes, man. That's my problem.
We're beyond the passes for Brett Brown.
It's a quarantine, and Brett Brown's still on the hot seat.
You're talking about somebody getting their job saved by a pandemic.
Lord. I have been in his corner for so long, and like now I'm kind of mad because the season has stopped, and I feel like it gives them an excuse to keep him around.
Absolutely, that's exactly what it is. It's like we can't fire him.
What would we have done in the playoffs? We don't know.
And also, you know what else really hurts? Well, this is kind of off topic. We're getting to the Sixers now, but the thing is, I think the Sixers. Here's the real issue: the Nets and the Knicks both having job coaching openings makes Brett Brown safe because the guys that the Sixers would want, the Nets and Knicks now have first crack at them.
Right.
And it doesn't. And the thing is, those organizations. I mean, the Nets to me are the most attractive job in basketball. You got 2 Hall of Fame players coming together next season. You can't ask for anything better if you're a head coach. I mean, that's a pretty much a lock though that Jason Kidd will be the head coach in the Nets. If he's not, they've completely fumbled that.
No, 100%. I memean, I definitely agree with you there when it comes to the whole thing with the Sixers because it's one of those things where you're like, you kind of want it to play itself out. It's like, does Brett Burr, is he earn his job or is he not earn his job, right? You can't go through a whole nother season with this of just, expectations and managing those expectations upon, every talking head in the world looks at that roster and is like, how are they not the 1 seed? And again, the Bucks are great, but how are they not a team that's competing with the Bucks on a level where they're kind of neck and neck, tearing apart the East? I mean, the fact that the Celtics, I know I'm a Boston fan, but the fact that the Celtics, after losing Kyrie Irving, after losing Al Horford, were kind of thrown into oh my God, they're like a 7-6 seed, forget about them. The fact that they are playing at a level that's more consistent than the Sixers, obviously head-to-head matchups matter, and they're a problem because of the length and everything.
I personally am not shocked by that, though, because Brad Stevens is a great coach.
And I totally get that, but again, I think that kind of speaks to the whole thing where it's like, all right, if Brett Brown
that's
has
the difference.
This roster,
y'all got Brad Stevens, and we got Greg Popovich's son. That's the difference. That's the difference.
I'm like, I tried to like ignore it and deny it for months and months throughout like the early part of the season. But you look at like, there's something to be said for a group of guys that really like Brett and respect him to a level, but you can see it. They get up for the Clippers at home. They get up for the Lakers at home. They've lost 2 games at home all year, but they get absolutely trashed on the road by terrible teams. And it's like they're not getting up and they're not taking games seriously, and they're just kind of coasting. And they're not at that level.
Well, also, I mean, it's like I'm sure you know this if you're a Sixer fan. It's like it's a puzzle that like the pieces just don't go together. They just don't. And and I think the biggest problem for me with Brett Brown is this is the difference we'll see in Boston is that players have developed in Boston. Yeah. There's not a single player that Brett Brown can say, I've made him better. Like he has become like he started here and right now he's a productive NBA player. Outside of maybe Shake Milton.
What about Rocco?
Come on, dog. Rocco was getting wide open shots with Ben Simmons on the floor. What happened when he went to Minnesota?
100%. But I mean, hey, but they valued him enough down there in Houston to make a move for him though too.
Well, but see, that's a scheme fit though, because he's a 3-and-D guy. You know what I mean? And they wanted to go ultra small. They wanted to do that.
All I'm saying is Rocco deserves a little bit of a little. No, but the thing for me though is how much did Brett Brown have to do with that? I don't know. But he's at least a player who developed.
You're not with me.
Oh man, no. But I totally hear you though with Brett. That's a huge concern. You look at Brad Stevens. You look at players like Daniel Tice, right? They get him off the scrap heap over there in Germany and bring him on over.
Bro,
and
Pat Connaughton went to Notre Dame.
I know. All right.
And Budenholzer is another one of those Popovich clones too. Like so, I'm over here like look at the roster that the Bucks have. You take Giannis away from that roster.
Yeah.
Listen, Bledsoe's good, but he can't. He doesn't do anything to an elite level.
Terry Rozier cooked him 3 years ago and basically called him Drew Bledsoe for 7 games, and he didn't do nothing about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's good, but he ain't.
No, I'll never forget that too, because Rozier was getting the clear out and would bust his ass like straight up. When he's like, "Yo, I don't need no screen. He sucks."
That's it.
And this is the thing that like if you think about Brett Brown and where he comes from, San Antonio, it's like what does he bring from San Antonio besides like the idea of a culture? Because
I'll tell you what he brings. He brought terrible pick and roll with Redick and Embiid in the fourth quarter game.
Pick and rolls, dribble hand.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? I mean, obviously I'm a Patriots fan, and you talk about Matt Patricia, you talk about the coaching tree. It's, what happens is it's like Popovich has built a culture and he's built all this other stuff. But, like, everyone can emulate him, but you're not Popovich. And if you're not Popovich, you can't actually bring that straight on up and say from day one, I earn that respect here. There's still a building aspect of it. And, hey, Popovich even knew enough to basically say, hey, screw it. We're tanking for Tim Duncan. You know what I mean? Like, and making sure that we have talented players, too.
Popovich he also has arguably the best GM in the history of sports with him, too. R.C. Buford's 100%. A genius.
Buford's awesome.
A genius.
Yes.
Bringing in international guys. I mean, who thought Boris Diaw would be any good? He was in the finals busting LeBron's ass.
Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili. I mean, he hit on guys late in drafts and guys who are obviously Hall of Fame level players at this point that were brought on in. And if it wasn't for them to kind of work around, maybe Tim Duncan, who I mean, in my opinion, is a top. I would put him close to that top 5, top 7 all-time discussion.
You got to put him. You got to put Timmy top 5.
I mean, again, I definitely would throw him around that area. But I'm saying, like, how would Tim Duncan have fared late in his career if it wasn't for the drafting and development of guys like Kawhi Leonard, guys like Tony Parker, guys like Manu Ginobili,
and maybe then development guys too.
But would he have been like closer to that KG level than closer to the MJ level that he kind of is now because of that discussion? That's all.
Good. That's a good discussion to be.
Yeah, 100%. Because I mean, scheme fit and players around you, like it all matters. Like it's these guys. You can pick talented players. I mean, I refuse to believe that Carmelo Anthony isn't one of the most talented players to lace him up over the last 15 years. But he was just never in a situation that was basically beneficial to Carmelo early in his career. He got too big of a head in certain situations and thought he could play one style and do one certain thing. And from there, he never was able to get over that hump and get the accolades that I think he should have been able to get.
He also signed a long-term deal to work for the worst owner in professional sports.
It's true. It's New York, though, man. It's New York.
It's James Dolan, bro.
I know. I know.
He had certain priorities.
Maybe, just maybe Carmelo's a Blues fan. I don't know, man. You know what I mean? Maybe he wants to listen to Jimmy D cook him up on the bass, lay down some sick licks.
It blows my mind, bro. Like, think about it. Dolan went and got Amari Stoudemire with bad knees, and then he was like, this Jeremy Lin thing is cute. And then it was just they literally signed everybody wrong that they possibly could. They brought in Phil Jackson to simply cash checks. So he wasn't doing much else.
He really wasn't
doing anything else.
That was funny, man. Oh God. But yeah, so obviously a lot of stuff there. We'll get to some more NBA talk a little later, but just getting back to the NFL stuff.
That's right. That's where we were.
That's kind of hop on in. So, you got a problem with Justin Herbert. That's fine.
It's not a problem. I don't have a problem with him. I just don't think he's good. I don't.
Well, so the thing for me is with Herbert, I don't think he's not. Tough. So
he was in the Rose Bowl. Hold on. Before you say anything, he was in the Rose Bowl this year, right?
Yeah.
We throw for like 135 yards and won the MVP.
I just want to say one of the things that I keep seeing popping up in like the mock draft descriptions of where he's going. It's like, hey, it's really reminiscent of Josh Allen. Like, Jesus Christ.
Matt, you know how I feel about that guy.
That's right. That's not a reason I'm picking him in the top 10. Delete that.
Well, listen, I cannot wait listen, people think Buffalo's going to be good next year. As long as he's their quarterback, they're never going to win anything.
All you have to do is watch that ridiculous lateral that he tried in the playoff game.
Man, I like this guy. He knows exactly what's going on.
Dude, I cannot stand Josh Allen and people that think he's like even decent. Yeah. My God.
Oh man, you know football. That's all I need to hear. Because Josh Allen is horrible.
He's not good.
I won't go as far as saying no football. I convinced myself that Sam Bradford was good too, but
me too.
Sam Bradford convinced many NFL GMs that he was good.
What? Many.
And cashed in bag after bag. So do not feel bad that you thought.
You talk about giving people roofies. Jesus, what was he giving a GM?
That's right. He went to the Vikings and then still after that signed a big ass contract with the Cardinals.
Like, what?
Crazy, absolutely crazy.
Bradford.
I think Herbert could be a good player, but he's not a day one starter. He's somebody who obviously you have to build around and have to develop. I look at Herbert in the situation. I look with Herbert because a lot of people were talking about with Miami that there's a chance that they prefer Herbert over Tua, and I think that's absolutely insane. I look at
let Tua fall into Anthony Lynn's lap. I bet you done fucked that one up.
No, 100%. And that's the whole thing is I think he would, I think Tua, in Miami makes the most amount of sense for sure. I also think Herbert in LA does make the most amount of sense for LA just because they do have Taylor for a year. I mean, again, I'm saying after Tua, if they don't get Tua, what do? Do they really ride it with Taylor?
Herbert should go undrafted. That's how terrible he is.
Oh man, I just don't think there's something to be said for the quarterback position in itself, and you have to address it. Like you can't.
If Christian Ponder can go top 15, Justin Herbert's going to go top 10.
Oh Lord, Christian Ponder. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
he married that girl on TV though.
Oh, that
was like somebody. There was a podcast I was listening to, and they were talking about it, and they said, "Hot take: Herbert will be out of the league in 3 years." Right? And
that's not a hot take.
I agree. You can say that. But Jake Locker was in the league for longer than 3 years. You know what I mean? So like,
oh my God!
There's a floor still, man. You know what I mean? If he's drafted in the first round, he's gonna be in the league unless there's like some crazy like off the wall racist like off the field shit that like something gets leaked personally about him. He'll be in the league because somebody's going to look at his arm talent and say, "Hey, I can do something with that."
Him.
They might be wrong.
Quarterbacks in the first round,
but they think they can do it.
You might be right, but Jameis can't find a job.
Yeah. Oh man, the problem, and this is the thing. But with Jameis, like the issue comes from I think just the way the league has kind of gone, where you have to either be a quarterback who's worthy of getting paid $25 to $30 million a year, or you have to be a quarterback on a rookie deal. And those in-between guys who are kind of making 15, 20 mil, a guy like Jameis who even say he signs for that $15 million or whatever, teams are looking at that and saying, I can put that money somewhere else.
Teddy Bridgewater.
But if you look at the way the contract's structured and you look at the way Carolina is and obviously the relationship between Joe Brady, who's there now, and Teddy Bridgewater from their time in New Orleans.
They're prepared to tank.
They have an opportunity there, and I think with the moves that the Panthers are going to be making, because I look at this draft and at 7, the one thing that's kind of crazy right now is obviously because of the way quarterback movement goes, players fall a little further than they're expected to fall.
Absolutely.
Isaiah Simmons, just plug and play as a replacement for Luke Kuechly. there in the linebacking core, just be your guy to be a linchpin of the defense, or find your bookend left tackle and a guy like Mekhi Becton or Jedrick Wills or whoever it is. Like, they're going to fall into a high-quality, talented player there at 7, all because teams are going to get stupid ahead of them.
If Simmons falls to 7, the Giants are morons, and that's a miracle.
See, but the thing is, though, when you look at
a miracle. That'd be a miracle.
I look at it this way, right? I love Isaiah Simmons for the Giants. I think Isaiah Simmons would be the quality pick for the Giants, but the Giants need to protect Daniel Jones. Like, tackle has to be probably their number one overall concern. Again, best player available is there, but if you're not protecting the guy who you reached and grabbed last year in the first round and giving him a prayer to basically, kind of do that, you kind of need it. You know what I mean? Like, you need to have that tackle situation figured out.
I was actually pretty high on Daniel Jones. I thought he was better than Haskins when they drafted him.
Yeah.
He fumbles the ball a lot, though.
I'm contractually obligated to hate Daniel Jones.
Oh, well, it's totally fine. I mean, like I said, I hate any team that's not the Niners. I'm lying. I'm a Wentz fan. I like Carson Wentz. I think he's a superstar.
Carson's the man. He really is.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. He's the talent's there. It's just I think this year's the year where he figures it all out. Hopefully.
Hey, we'll see it there. So let's kind of, because I know that we got like a time limit kind of on here, but we can do basically recording wise. So with that in the mind, let's kind of get to some of the picks that we want to see happen. So obviously you're sitting there at 13. Who's your dream scenario? Who falls into your lap at 13 that you take? And then we'll go to him at 21, me to 23, and we'll come back to you at 31 to cap it all off.
My dream scenario would be the kid from Auburn, the defensive tackle, Derek Brown, falling to 13. That would be a dream. If we could replace DeForest Buckner with DeForest Buckner, would be great.
Yeah,
it'd be the same type of. But I think he'll be long gone.
I think there's a chance. I really do.
I mean, I would be shocked if he gets past 7 at Carolina. I think Carolina, they have a history also of drafting high defensive line guys, just defensive guys in general.
I think them at 7. I think Arizona at 8 and Jaguars at 9 are your hurdles. But if he gets past 9, I think there's a very realistic chance he's there on 13.
And if not him, I mean, there's a lot of talk that we want a receiver. I believe that we're going to be in the AB sweepstakes. I think we're going to be right there. We're going to be a team that, in order for him to get signed, it's going to be a team that is good, that has a great structure in place, and has leadership and is ready to win. He can't go to a team where he can be where it's a potentially is a distraction. Also, I'm a big AB fan, so I'm just praying that happens. If we do go receiver, if I could have any of the top 3 guys, I'd take Judy. Judy's the best route runner I've ever seen.
Yeah. Ever.
He beats press man coverage. He can navigate any zone, and he just gets open. I also told you I felt about CeeDee Lamb. Keep him away from my team. I don't want him near my team. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. He wasn't the number 1 guy till his senior year. And if you actually look at the tape of his senior season, there may be 7 plays the whole year where he's making a contested catch. He's butt naked open on every play because of Lincoln Riley. And the way they used him too, they used him as a gadget guy. So like if he's not used correctly. I don't think CeeDee Lamb can go to the NFL and run you 10 routes in a row and get open 5-6 times and consistently wide open the way Judy could.
That's fair. I can definitely understand because, I mean, from a technicality aspect, I agree with you. I think Judy is the more refined player between the two of them. Judy is probably, wide receiver 1, I think, on most people's boards.
He's ready right now.
He deserves to be there.
He's a guy. He can go in the NFL right now, catch you 100 passes.
I think so. I believe that 100%. And I think obviously with the Shanahan offense, I was very surprised they weren't as in on bringing back Sanders as it kind of seemed like they, I thought he played really well for them, and I thought he would have been a good player to kind of build around. But if they're going the route,
you take away the Saints game, he didn't really do much, and that's honest truth. Honest truth.
You're the Niners fan.
You take away the New Orleans game, he played. I mean, he threw a touchdown and caught 2 against them. So
right.
You take that game away, he had 1 touchdown catch, and that was on the first game. The first game he played with us.
Mm-hmm.
And, he maybe if he showed in the Super Bowl,
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we would have kept him, but he didn't really do anything in the Super Bowl. So
fair enough.
And then,
enough.
I mean, he probably could have used a more accurate quarterback or something.
Oh man! So obviously, you're talking, Jerry Jeudy basically, or one of those top defensive line prospects.
Or defensive line.
Do you like Javon Kinlaw too? Because I bounce back and forth. I think
like Kinlaw.
Derek Brown had better tape, but I think Kinlaw's testing and his athletic numbers, they're definitely something to work with.
Brown's a better football player. That's clear.
See that.
He's a better football player. You talk about a guy who could develop into something that could be really crazy. I think Kinlaw could really be something special. I think if I was to go defensive line, it's going to be tackle. It's not going to be.
Okay.
And then we could use a corner. None of the corners outside of Okudah is worthy of a 13th overall pick.
Me neither.
In my opinion.
I have no idea how C.J. Henderson is getting so much love as a top 15 prospect right now.
Defensive back is Antoine Winfield's son in the entire draft.
I love Winfield Jr.
Back in the entire draft.
Winfield Jr. is awesome, man. I think he's very high for me. I don't have him maybe that high as best defensive back prospect or whatever. But I think as far as safety wise goes, it's really pick your poison. Like between Delpit, McKinney, him, and Ashton Davis, like whatever one you want to pick, it's all depending on what kind of defense you want to play. And I can see a reason for any of those four guys being safety one on anybody's board. Obviously, minus Isaiah Simmons, depending on how you label him safety or linebacker.
Also, I think I want Jeudy. I don't think we'll get Jeudy. I'll say that much. I do think that if we do go receiver and it's not Jeudy or Lamb, I don't want Lamb. I would go Ruggs. I mean, just because Ruggs' ceiling is Tyreek Hill. I mean, that's what he is. He's an absolute burner, can run routes, can jump out the gym. He's a freak. Is he going to be? He's got to be the right fit though. Like I said, with Tyreek Hill, it's just you got to get the ball in his hands, let him go.
Yep.
So, receiver. Hopefully, we get a replacement for DeForest Buckner. I mean, my team needs. I mean, we're stacked at linebacker. We're stacked on the defensive line. Mm-hmm. We're really good at safety. We could use another cornerback, but I mean, we got depth at cornerback. We could use another tight end. Well, I mean, we got an elite tight end on one side. I mean, there's really no glaring need that I see outside of receiver or a replacement for DeForest Buckner.
Yeah.
I don't want to see like we're that good, but we've done it.
Well, when you go to the Super Bowl the year before and you're picking 31 in your real spot, if 13 becomes a luxury for you basically to grab another prospect that high. I mean, I can definitely agree with that.
So, but other than that, I don't. I want a receiver. We need a receiver.
No, fair enough. 21 now, Alex. Your dream scenario there. Who do you see falling to you guys? If obviously you got your, like I said, dream scenario, a guy who you might be like, oh my God, he's going to be there. Maybe a more realistic pick of some guys who you've been seeing mock there. You can kind of see being there at 21 for you to grab. We talked about it before the show got started, and kind of like where Christian was going with receiver being a big need. Well, the Eagles, that is their biggest need. Sure. They need to find somebody for Carson Wentz to grow with, somebody who's going to be that number one receiver for them for the foreseeable future. And defensive back was obviously there, and I still think it's a high need, but when you trade for Darius Slay, that knocks that down a little bit further and kind of brings you up with wide receiver being the numero uno focus you got at 21 probably.
I mean, at 21, they've been linked to Justin Jefferson a lot, which I guess makes sense if you're moving into the next tier of guys after what Lamb and Jeudy and Ruggs have been talked about. A dream scenario that is more realistic, because obviously Judy's not dropped. Even CeeDee Lamb's probably not going to drop that far. And I don't see them trading up. And I kind of don't want them to trade up unless they're landing Jerry Jeudy, because I probably like CeeDee Lamb a little bit more than Christian. But, even just watching, I spent an hour watching, 6 YouTube reels of wide receivers because I had nothing else to do. But, just watching CeeDee Lamb, he doesn't even look – he looks decidedly slower than pretty much any other wide receiver. And he is, like Christian was saying, he's just playing wide open on so many of his plays.
Wide open.
He's not even necessarily making guys miss or running crisp routes. Guys are just leaving him alone. So, if Henry Ruggs manages somehow to fall to 21, that's fantastic because it's –
Y'all get Henry Ruggs? Lord Jesus. Ooh. Carson. Jesus.
Yeah. But like we were talking earlier, Justin Jefferson, I would be okay with it. You worry about the fit. You worry that it's just going to be, just another guy that can't really play on the outside. or your work. They're in a situation where they're going to draft a guy, and team expectation, fan expectation, everything is going to be this guy has to produce like a number 1 or a number 2 receiver right away because we've had nothing this last year. And if you're going to draft a guy that maybe he can play on the outside after a couple of years as he develops a little bit more, it's just gonna cause too much friction. And with the offense, it could bog down the offense. You don't want to go in relying on Deshaun Jackson to stay healthy and then a guy who might not be ready to play on the outside. So, but Henry Ruggs,
I'll take 150 catches from Ertz.
I mean, that's all it's going to be. It's going to be Ertz and Goddard, and hopefully Goddard solves his Butterfingers issues. But if Justin Jefferson can be the pick, and I'll be okay with that. I mean, we were talking earlier. They've been linked to maybe taking a linebacker at that spot, and while it's a need, that's not really – I don't think it's a need to the point where, especially in the defense, where you've got one linebacker on the field like 90% of the time. It seems kind of like you might be taking best player available and it might work out, but you also might be neglecting to the point where you don't want to – I feel like you don't want to neglect the wide receiver to the point like they've neglected running backs and ended up drafting Donnell Pumphrey because they outsmarted themselves.
No, 100%. And the big thing too is like we've heard it over and over again. It's a very deep wide receiver draft. A guy who we've talked about a lot there, Christian, and you've obviously been very high on throughout this entire process is Denzel Mims. Denzel Mims is an excellent prospect. He's a guy who has been rising up the boards. But
Might be the best guy.
I mean,
I've been saying it.
You've been high on him for a while now, and Denzel Mims is great. You got him. You got Jalen Reagor from TCU, Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State, KJ Hamler from Penn State. You've got a deep class, but you don't want to miss out on one of those guys because you went it somewhere else and then decided somebody was going to be there.
Oh, no.
I don't think Reagor's going to be good in the NFL. I don't think Reagor's going to be good in the NFL. Nope. I don't think he's going to be good. I don't think the kid from Arizona State will be good either.
I think Brandon Ayuk has legitimate concerns. So where he's been talked about as being like top 7 or top 6, and I don't see that. I can see top 10, top 12. No, 100%. But I can't see him there. With Reagor, the thing that he had the absolute most uncatchable passes thrown his way at TCU. He had the worst quarterback play of almost all time. And he was still out there hustling and doing shit.
Mims is looking at his college numbers like, man, I left at least 1,200 yards on the field.
No, 100%.
At least.
So that's the one thing I give Jalen Reagor a little bit of a break for. And
no, absolutely.
When he came back
got
and
running
did
backs
his own,
throwing the ball.
Yeah, you know what I mean? When he came back and ran his 40 at his makeshift pro day and all that kind of stuff, it was a lot faster than it was at the combine. After putting on some weight, which I think a lot of teams asked him to kind of bulk up a bit for. He lost a little bit of the speed by doing so, which is natural. He kind of got back down to where he probably will be playing at, and he ran around where we expected him to run at. So I'm high on Jalen Reagor, but at the same time, I'm looking at 21, and I agree with you, Alex. You got to go wide receiver, whether or not it's Reagor, whether or not it's Mims, whether or not it's Jefferson, whoever it is, pick your guy and stick him because you got to get that guy at 21. You can't bank on him being there at 53. And we talk about the trade up. Yeah, they trade up for Andre Dillard last year. They already spent extra draft capital. They're in this situation now. They're probably
Peters will come back too. Watch.
Yeah, they're
oh
probably,
my God.
They're probably not going to trade up this year going forward. And when you're talking about even moving up in the second round, well, when you don't sign Byron Jones, when you don't sign James Bradbury, when you don't get a free agent, and you have to trade for Darius Slay, you've already lost draft capital that way. I'm not saying that Darius Slay isn't probably the better player of them all, the better fit for what they need, but you're already giving up capital for a team that needs to get young very, very quickly. They have a very old roster, and they have a quarterback who's getting ready to start getting super paid on the cap. They have to figure out ways to get quality players at other positions. You can't be spending so much capital moving up and down the draft boards. You got to be able to have confidence. I mean, that's the thing with Howard.
You say all this. Well, you say all this, and at 8:45, AJ Green will be an Eagle. It'll be that's what's gonna happen.
We're gonna pass up Stephon Diggs. We're gonna pass up DeAndre.
Right?
Yeah.
No, listen, the Stephon Diggs, I love Stephon Diggs, but if you're going to give me 4 draft picks for him, take them. And I don't care. 4 guys, and it's 4 draft picks that you can use. Nah, That just lets you know how incompetent O'Brien is. Jesus.
Yeah, that was the worst. And then he goes out and trades a second for Cooks. Like, it was like just the icing on the cake, basically, for O'Brien. And, like, he is the poster child for why the Chip Kelly, O'Brien guys, like, you can, like, you're just so much better off having a head coach and a GM than you are having like Belichick is literally the exception to the rule. Like, these guys are just not there because your head coach wants to win now. Your GM has to set you up for the future, and you have to have those ideologies basically pushing up against each other and questioning each other. When you have one dude making all the calls, you end up like Bill O'Brien.
I want to know what O'Brien was thinking. He's like, well, maybe if we only have to run 9 routes. Dude, what are you thinking? Like, the dude's been put to sleep 4 times in a calendar year.
100%, man.
Howie Roseman comes out and is like, yeah, we talked to him. That's not the trade that we got offered that they made for DeAndre Hopkins. Like,
absolutely not.
What the hell were they asking for from the Eagles?
O'Brien was probably like, I want 3 firsts. And Howie was like, I'll think about it.
Arizona was like, we got David Johnson. He's like, fucking love David Johnson.
Anytime I can trade for an aging running back with bad
who's always hurt.
It's gotta make it. Gotta make the pick. Gotta make the pick up. All right. So you talk about Justin Jefferson there. You talk about those guys. So what you're saying, you got Ruggs as your number 1 pick, and probably a guy like Jefferson or Mims or somebody there at 21 if that guy's not there.
And to me, like you talked about before, if you get Jefferson, you got to go back around the 3rd round and grab whoever's left.
Yeah, like you got to make you have to double dip because, like you said, I mean, Zach Ertz is essentially your slot receiver. You know what I mean?
You got Arcega-Whiteside though.
Oh man, I love that guy.
I still okay. All right, let's not bury the kid already. I think he can be
better.
Right,
I'm being serious.
I know. I think he can
funny.
be better. It's just the one thing too. It's like you talk about Howie or the Eagles' inconsistencies with drafting. Well, development has been the same thing too. Like it's a kind of double-edged sword, and that's why grabbing a guy who's again polished like Justin Jefferson might make sense because coming in, he does have a very high floor. You know what you have in Justin Jefferson. He's not going to be worse than what you know he is, right? So we have that going for us. But that's where the confidence in taking a guy like Mims, but having the confidence to be able to develop him and put him in a position to succeed on the outside.
Mims is a number 1.
Philosophy.
Alex, I promise you, the Eagles get Mims. I know people are talking about Jefferson. Mims reminds me of DeAndre Hopkins.
Ooh.
Look at the tape.
Contested catches,
Bro, contested catches. He can beat you with speed. He can run routes. He's got the best hands out of anybody. Well, I mean, yeah. He's probably got the best hands out of any receiver in the draft. I'm telling you, if you look at the tape, just look at him. He's DeAndre Hopkins without dreads. Yeah. I'm telling you.
He's good. He's a good player. I mean,
man coverage with people all over him. I mean, small windows, getting hit. The tape speaks for itself. None of those other guys can get me 3 seasons of it. They all got 1. And this guy had rotating door at quarterback, a new coach. The program was in the complete shitter when he showed up, and went from 1-12 to what are they like 12-1 or 10-11-2 or whatever.
It's the whole reason why Matt Rule's the head coach in the NFL
exactly.
now. It's a turnaround, yeah.
And I'm telling you, man, Mims. I think I'm sure there's an NFL team that's in love with Denzel Mims, and he will end up going higher than a lot of people think.
No, I think so.
I believe that.
I've seen him going in the 1st round.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it. I mean, there's been some chatter there that the Eagles are interested at 21. I mean, obviously the chatter's been there for Jefferson as well, so we'll see which way they go. But I like the pick, and I agree. If the top 3 guys aren't there, then at 21, Denzel Mims is not just break in case of emergency, but you run to the podium and you grab a talented player in a position of need.
Mims is the guy that they had him on WIP, and he's like talked to the Eagles more than any other team so far. So that's
good news.
A plus there. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm telling you,
as I'm going through,
he's not like Denzel Mims is not making it. He's not making it out of the 1st round. I can tell you right now, he's not making it out of the 1st round.
At this point, he can't. Like it's too much talk about him.
Yeah, you have to go break the bad news to the sad Giants fan.
His floor, his absolute floor is the Packers at 30. Like,
I'm watching.
He's not going past that, and I believe he goes higher. I believe he goes around that 20.
He goes to the Packers. If he goes to the Packers, he's a viable fantasy option immediately.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
That team,
I think
Jesus.
so too, 100%. All right,
I'm going through YouTube
23
videos.
then. Patriots on the board there at 23, and
Let's
obviously
hear
the elephant in the room is the quarterback position. Let's be real there. And I don't like any of the quarterbacks at 23. I don't even like Jordan Love. Even if Jordan Love falls there, I'm not a big Jordan Love fan.
Stay away from that guy.
He's like, people have said he's like he's Patrick Mahomes light, or
he's
knockoff Patrick Mahomes, and I'm like, well, if he's not
Look,
Patrick
you don't
Mahomes,
want to knock off Pat Mahomes.
yeah, exactly. Then I'm just not interested
right now. Does the knockoff
right
Pat Mahomes come with a knockoff Andy Reid?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not interested in it. And so for that part of it, I believe what the team says. They believe in Jared Stidham. They believe that they're going to roll Stidham out there and he's going to be a guy. Now, do I think Stidham is the guy? No, of course not. But at the same time, I'm looking at it as worst case scenario. Stidham sucks. You pick your quarterback next year. You're better off not allocating cap and putting other positions and drafting a guy in the second or the third or somewhere like that. Basically, break the tank in it 100%. But no,
you're not gonna beat the Bills, right? Come on, man.
But Josh Allen, just extreme fear in your heart.
That's it. Honestly, but my whole thing was like what Stephon Diggs was like, oh man, if he hated getting overthrown by 5 yards by Kirk Cousins, he's gonna love getting overthrown by 10. It's
15 plus.
I just can't wait for that first game where that he's wide open on the deep pass and he just watches it rainbow all the way over his head.
Shit lands in the third row.
Back, like, what was I thinking? But no, I mean, it's gonna be interesting. But no, I look at it this way: you got Jared Stidham there. If Jared Stidham is the guy, the reason he's going to be the guy is because he has offensive line helping him. He has help there on the offensive line. And so my pick there at 20 – and again, my pick at 23 is to try to figure out a guy who's going to be able to fit in immediately and also fit in for the future, and that's Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan. If they were to figure out him there in the center spot, David Andrews didn't play all last year. You know what I mean? He was already got health concerns, blood clot in the lungs. Like, who knows what his playing career is going to be going forward. If he does come back, well, Ruiz can play guard. Shaq Mason fell off a little bit, but I think Mason's going to be fine. Joe Thuney is the one that's going to be hard to project because they give him the tag, but that doesn't obviously mean he's going to be here past next year. And that doesn't mean he's going to play this year. They could trade him off that tag if they really wanted to a team that kind of gets desperate and they can plug him in there in that guard spot. So I think you fit a need now and you fit a need for the future. So Ruiz would be a guy who I look at as the realistic option. Now, if I'm talking about the option where I'm saying, oh my God, run to the podium, go out and grab him, it's Chason. And that's because on the edge spot, you've already lost Van Noy. You've lost Jamie Collins.
Hold on, it's whom?
What'd you say?
Who'd you say?
Chason. Kayvon Chason from LSU.
From LSU, okay.
The edge prospect. Okay, and so I'm looking at it from there because I look at the best way for this team to succeed next year and going forward is the same way they did last year. Like, Tom Brady played really good for the first portion of that season, basically. Had a bad elbow injury. Everything kind of started to tail down after that. And the way the team was built was to win through the defense. And so when you lose that many players on the defensive side of the ball, you've got to replenish it some way or another. I think Chason would be a great pick because, again, we're talking first-round picks. The one thing that everyone forgets, and the reason why so many running backs go in that first round is because you get that fifth-year option. You get the extra year on a player before they're able to hit and get paid basically what their market value is. I mean, what position other than quarterback gets paid like edge right now or gets paid like pass rushers?
That's also kind of changed, though, because a lot of all the running backs that go in the first round, one, they signed with Rock Nation, and two, they're all getting the majority of their money up front. Like Saquon, Fournette, Zeke, even in their first deals, they got the majority of their money up front. So, like, the only thing is that and that's because now renegotiation or guys with, like you said, with that fourth, fifth year option, they get screwed because they play running.
Yeah, 100%. And so, but I look at the pass rush spot and that being a spot where, again, you can get a value for the first 4 years, and that fifth year can still, even with the option year, be a value if that guy plays up to snuff. And I think, since Chandler Jones, we haven't had a guy on the outside who's been that type of pass rusher, that guy who can consistently cause pressure and get to the quarterback. And even Chandler Jones didn't really come into his own until he went to Arizona. And so with that being the case, I think Chason would be, again, the run to the podium pick for them.
Is he the only guy
because there's no way they draft another wide receiver after drafting N'Keal Harry last year in the first round. And, like, I think wide receiver is a huge need. I still think that again, Denzel Mims is on the board there. I would love Denzel Mims. If Justin Jefferson's on the board there, I would love Justin Jefferson, because on our team, you got, Julian Edelman, who they could be trading for a 3rd-round pick.
He's 100% getting traded.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So who knows what's going to happen there? So finding somebody
100%.
to be a slot receiver would make sense for them. But I also look at a guy like Jacoby Myers, who's an undrafted guy who came up last year and played really, really well. I think he could be a guy who, again, talking slot receivers, they've kind of grown on trees for the Patriots over the last, couple of years. Obviously, they got Tom Brady, so we don't know. Everything's projection.
You did have that guy.
You did have him. So it's going to be interesting. But I think the best way to go about this is to give either Stidham a chance to survive on the line, get them better blocking, and allow the run game to basically lead them on offense, or go out on defense and get a guy who's going to get sacks and get the ball back to him a lot quicker, keep teams at bay and keep the scores low, and that's what Chason does. So,
and Van Noy's gone too, right?
Van Noy's gone too. Yep. So Van Noy's gone. Collins is gone. They've really lost basically their linebacking core. And with Chason, he's an edge, but he's an outside linebacker. He can play a little bit, out there.
Standing up as well. Yeah.
Stand-up guy. So I think they can use him in that Kyle Van Noy role. A lot of people have talked about A.J. Epinesa or Zach Bond, but both of those guys' athletic profiles just don't scream out to me the way Chason does. And so because of that, I would rather him over those guys. But, again, we're cutting teeth. I think if those guys are on the board there, and because Chason goes, say, to 16 to the Atlanta Falcons, which is a lot of people expect him to go, if Kinlaw's off the board by then, they need defensive line prospects all the way around.
They still got Matt Ryan. They'll never win.
So with that being the case, I like Chason. I like the fit. So you're there at the end of the first round now, Christian, talking about pick 31. Say you went either Brown or you went Judy at 13. Where do you think the team should go here at the back end of the first?
This is where you can either, for me, I would add depth at corner. I'd get another corner. I know we want to back up tight end. I'm pretty sure I'm almost 100% sure we'll end up signing Trey Burton. If it's not like a defensive tackle, who I don't even actually know who we would take as a defensive end guy, but we don't. But I don't, like I said, I don't think we're as pressed as people are trying to think. Like I said, if we don't get Derek Brown at 13, which I guarantee you, if he's available, we take him.
Yeah.
I think we go cornerback.
Yeah, I like corner. I like corner there a lot. I like A.J. Terrell. I like Trayvon Diggs. I like Noah Igbenogany. There's a lot of guys. I like
Diggs a lot.
There. Yeah, me too. And
Diggs, I also like, as I said, I really, really like Winfield's kid, bro. Yeah. Like Antoine Winfield Jr., because he plays just like his dad.
He's a Swiss Army knife.
He's physical, and he outside of when it comes to versatility, the only player in the draft that's more versatile than him is Isaiah Simmons.
I can see that. I definitely
Simmons can play safety if he wanted.
Yeah, and that's the thing with
He's
Winfield.
A freak.
He really can. He can play single high. He can play in the box. He can play nickel corner. You can move him all the way around. He can do whatever he wants to do.
He's just different. Yeah, he's Tyrann Mathieu, but 6'6", 6'5", however tall he is. You know what I mean? That's who he is.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see him, and I can see the body type being something that Lynch falls in love with to basically bring on in and be that replacement for Jimmy Ward or whoever else they kind of think on the back end of the roster there from the safety spot.
Yeah, I mean, and also we're not trying to overpay. Every single player that we tendered signed. Every single guy. We haven't had no holdouts. No, everyone's. So like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's like right now, it's like you remember the days when y'all were good. When y'all were good.
It's too soon.
Too soon? My bad.
No, it's all good. I just
remember those days.
It's been a long time coming.
You know those days where you're like looking at the roster and it's like we got a Hall of Famer at quarterback and we got everything's good. We got and players are showing up because they really love Brady and people are going to realize that nobody likes Belichick.
That's funny.
So. But yeah, I mean, it's like we're stacked. And also, if you don't follow the Niners, you don't know about the guys we have in the pipeline. I mean, we got two guys that you could take a ticket on that didn't play a single down this year that have potential to be superstars or really, really good players in the NFL. Trent Taylor was arguably our best player in preseason. He got hurt. Receiver. Yeah. Jalen Hurd is another guy. He played. And the thing is,
he's a wide receiver.
Right. He's a perfect fit for what Shanahan would do because he's a running back and a receiver. He can catch the ball out the big backfield, and he's a big receiver. He's a big guy, too. He's like a 6'3" running back. Mm-hmm. So it's like – so I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't go receiver because also another thing I feel like the Shanahans have a history of not really putting a lot of onus on offensive playmakers. It's all scheme for them. And I mean, look at the running backs we got. I mean, our highest paid running back last year was Jarrett McKinnon. He didn't play a single down.
Yeah. No, 100%.
You know, so
they have it, and the defense is the identity, obviously there, and that's how they're going to win going forward. Even though it's Shanahan offense,
it's both though. It's both. They go hand in hand because we run that, hold the ball, run it a lot. I mean, we had a couple games where we had shootouts, but for the most part, we're grind it out, run the ball, play good defense, and we turns you over too. That's another thing that NFL teams or fans don't realize. When you could turn a team over and still give up a ton of points. You could turn teams over, still give up a lot of points and be really good.
True.
And that's what we turned a lot of teams over. You couldn't run the ball against us at all either.
That's it. So, I mean, we'll get off that then. So there's a lot of the NFL talk we had. So basically before our time runs out here, just kind of talk a little bit about the NBA, get back to it a little bit. Do you think we're going to get back to the NBA? What's going to happen? Like, are the games going to take place? I know a lot of the talk that's kind of been around there has been the kind of fail safe and the TV contracts being a big reason.
The NBA has to come back.
Yeah. With
the local TV contracts.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about that.
The thing is, they've all got so much money that I feel like if something can come back, it's like some of the major sports like the NBA or the NHL. They've got the resources and the ability to, as long as their players' unions all agree to it, they can get to a spot, play without fans, minimize like the staff that's around.
Do you think they just go right into doing the playoffs? Do you think the knockout tournaments, like
no?
What happens? Do they finish the season? Like, do they actually play those games?
In order for local TV contracts to be fulfilled, they have to play a minimum of 70 games.
And that's for every team?
That's for both. That's for any team. And also, why that's a big deal is because I think it's like 7 of the 16 teams that are playoff teams in the NBA are in small markets.
Nah.
So that local TV money is a big deal. Like, you think about it. Think about the best team in the league's in a small market.
Yeah, Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So and then you got – we can name them off top. Indiana, small market. Memphis in the mix for the final spot. The Magic making the playoffs in the East.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? There's a bunch. There's Oklahoma City, Denver. Even though they're a big city, they're a small market. They're really good. They're really
Utah.
The Jazz.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like all these good teams, and that check, that TV check is a big deal. So the NBA has to come back this season to some capacity.
Yeah.
I think it'll be they finish up 70 games and they go to the playoffs. They cap it at 70 because they know that the bottom line is the bottom line.
Yeah.
That would be the only major. That's the thing. It's like that's the only major L that the NBA does not want to take. So and also I've already done the math. That would if they were to fulfill a 70-game season, they would have to start at like June 1st, no later.
And I think that's fairly realistic if you did a no fan kind of setup with the way that certain things are trending. Obviously, May was thrown out there as the startup date for a lot of stuff, but that's obviously not happening. So I mean, June 1st, if you were to kind of throw it out there, I think that could be realistic, depending on you get a lot of smart people in a room to figure out how to get it done. I think that could definitely be the case. So when the season,
a lot of smart people.
That's it, man. When you get it all together there, they'll find some way to figure it out, especially when you're talking about the kind of cash and money that's involved with making sure they do figure it out. Playoff time, though. Playoff time comes around. Obviously, you guys are Sixers fans. I'm a Celtics fan. So from your guys' perspective, what are you expecting come playoff time, Alex?
Dude, I got to be honest. I don't know because, one, I haven't thought about basketball in like a month and a half.
So you're like Jason Tatum.
January feels like 3 years ago now at this point.
Have you been watching the horse competition on ESPN?
Oh my God. I watched Paul Pierce get blanked 5-0 by Zach LaVine, who tried everything he literally was like, all right, I can't dunk. Fine, here's a 360 layup. Here's a tap glass and reverse layup. Like, he literally was like, what way can I just not dunk but show everyone I'm the most fucking athletic person here?
Like, can't do it.
he literally went up for the one that he was like, and the ball like flew like he looked like me. He looked like me trying to attempt it.
He like jumped and he's like, oh shit, I can't do that.
My body's never moved like that, let alone now.
Right, I'm like 40, nigga. You're tripping.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
It's like T-Mac trying to dunk in a game like, nope.
That's it, man. It's crazy. Oh my god.
It's like we kind of alluded to it earlier, like the way that they play at home versus the way that they play on the road, it feels very obvious to me that they think or are behaving like a team, and reference the Spurs in it, that wants to flip the switch and just kind of coast through to the playoffs and rest as they need.
We will.
And they're just gonna go on fire. And like, to me, if they can play at the level that they play against good competition at home on the road half the time,
I think that this is my take on for the Sixers. We're gonna win a championship this year because of this break. I'm serious.
I mean,
and here's why. At the end of the day, basketball is the only sport where 99.8% of the time talent wins out. The other times it's teams. It's like the Detroit Pistons when they beat the Lakers, or the Mavs when they beat
Miami Heat.
Yeah.
The Miami Heat.
Yeah.
It's that's how it. Or the Spurs. The Spurs have the model of team basketball.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a more talented starting five in the NBA than what we got in Philly. There isn't, and you couldn't name a more talented starting five in the entire NBA. In the entire league. When we got everybody, there's no more talent. Now, listen, the talent has not been cohesive on the court for an extended period of time. However, we've had every single key player miss time with injury, except for Al Horford, and no one's speaking on that. I know everybody wants to throw Brett under the bus, and I would happily throw him under the bus as well. But Richardson missed time, Embiid missed time, Simmons missed time, Thibault missed time. All those guys didn't play. I mean, and these are guys that you need in your rotation. And then you go to the trade deadline. It's like, well, you could have moved Josh Richardson if he wasn't hurt.
Yeah.
You could have moved half the damn roster, but everybody was hurt.
Yeah.
So we had no options. And so like, it's just, you gotta, at this point, we got the most talented roster. We're rested, we're in shape. Go run and just play your game. Like, maybe this quarantine has forced Ben to shoot the ball. I don't know, man. That'd be great.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. But,
I mean, I do. I agree with a lot of stuff you said there, though, between both of you guys. I mean, it's like the confidence you have in the team. It's all about, do they show up? Do they play up to the level of what they're capable of, that they've shown that they're capable of especially at home. You know what I mean?
We're a church bounce away from being in the NBA Finals last year, okay?
Dude, and like every team they match up against in the East is so head-to-head, they've beaten Boston more times than not finally, for the first time in like 5 years. I think the Miami Heat have a winning record, but they've blown out the Heat. They've gotten blown out, and then
we lost to them by a point. We lost to the Heat by a point one time we played them.
After they were down by like 20, and then
we lost back-to-back games that night. Then we lost back-to-back one-point games that stretch.
And one of those games, it was a lock. They had it. They won it. Tobias Harris muffs the dunk, and then Joel Embiid turns over the ball after getting the rebound, which never happens. And then Tyler freaking Hero hits a goddamn three, and they end up losing in overtime.
The next night we lost to Orlando. We lost both those games by a single point.
Yeah. It's like most of these teams, especially early on in the year, they had a winning record against all of these playoff teams, and then as their struggles started to kind of compound and got more towards 500. But like, I'm not afraid of the Heat, because I feel like 2 of their wins were just fluky. Like they crushed the Heat at home the first time they played them. The Bucks, I think, would be a good series. I don't even know what to think about the Raptors, because they weren't supposed to be as good as they are, and they're still finding a way to beat the Sixers.
Nick Nurse, the NBA Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a conversation either. I think you lose Kawhi Leonard, and you're right where you're in the exact same position you were the year before. That's ridiculous. Yeah, it lets you know he's one hell of a coach, man. Nick Nurse knows what he's doing. Jeez.
Yeah. Like, it's not like he just walked into Kawhi Raptors last year.
He knew. He know. Well, the story behind him is crazy. You know that he was their D-League coach.
No, shit. No, I did not know that.
Listen, he was their D-League coach. They won a D-League championship. And
905,
Dwayne
right?
Casey, yes, Dwayne Casey was the head coach. And there was chatter, like NBA teams being interested in Nick Nurse. And Ujiri was like, man, fuck it. Like, I'm no bullshit. He was like, I'm not. It's like you don't let the young prodigy out. You don't let him leave. You don't let him get out of the house.
Yeah, 100%. They fired the coach of the year and just like, here's Nick Nurse.
Damn.
Yeah, he was like, they fired the coach of the year and bro, you know how insane that even sounds? You fired your head coach to hire your D-League coach, and then you won a championship the next year.
Yeah, that was like
everyone's like, what? LeBron finally leaves, and now you fire your coach.
Yeah, my whole favorite thing is like when you talk about just like great Twitter moments of all time, and between the Panthers basically thanking Cam Newton for everything he's done for them before Cam Newton's actually off the roster, and the Toronto Raptors saying congratulations, coach, on your Coach of the Year award after you've already fired the man. Like, those are two all-time social media moments in history.
Cam responding in hieroglyphics is the best though.
No, 100%. Oh, man. And then for the Celtics perspective, I mean, it's house money. Like, nobody expected us to kind of be in this position with the team that we have. I always thought Kemba was going to be a better replacement for Kyrie because of what Kemba does fits into the Stevens system.
Absolutely.
100%, just a little bit better there. But you also talk about the ascension of Jason Tatum. I mean, he's not
an egomaniac, and he doesn't think the world is flat.
Oh, my God.
So, got that going for him. Jason Tatum obviously took a dramatic leap. Jaylen Brown came along to being the player who we all thought Jaylen Brown would be after that first playoff run that he was a part of. And then you look at again.
He's good, bro. Oh, my goodness. He's the best player on the team. I like Tatum's good and everything, but Jalen's the best player on the team.
I don't know. That's tough. I will say that with Jaylen, it's one of those things to where it comes down to he's got that Kawhi factor to him where it's like, he took a weakness. His biggest weakness was dribbling, driving, and shooting. And over the course of time, he's basically said, I'm going to focus on these three things. And now they're basically his pluses. And so that's the one thing that I have respect for Jaylen there, where it comes to just being that gym rat kind of guy.
He puts the work in. Yep.
100%. To kind of get to where you're at.
Tatum too. Like that's the great. They both were workers.
Mm-hmm.
What were you saying, Alex? My bad.
Oh no, I was gonna say I'm just mad. Jaylen Brown's like the one guy that I really shit on a few years ago, and now he's like their fucking best player.
Yeah,
well, I wanted to shit on both of them because I'm like, I used to use the old bullshit line. Well, is Jason Tatum an all-star yet? And it's like this year, yes, he is. It's like did the Sixers win? You know what I mean? Like it's remember when they were like 10 Did the Sixers win? They had Twitter page was like no.
Jason Tatum, an all-star, right? And 19 nonetheless. You know what I mean? Like
he's really good. No lie.
That's like one of my favorite, just Jason Tatum being forever 19. But no, it's I look at, again, house money, the way they've played. They've been an awesome team. We'll see how it all breaks down. I mean, right now we're on course for a first round matchup with the Sixers, depending on how things kind of shake up. Obviously, the Indiana kind of being in the middle there is going to force it one way or the other. But I think that would be an awesome first round series, just because, again, you're talking about, can the Sixers get the demons off their back in a year where they are the most talented? Are the Celtics able to basically ascend themselves past their expectations and be able to knock off a team like the Sixers? Just from storyline perspectives, and obviously the wicked, filthy dynamic between you and me and Alex, and obviously you, Christian, that would just be a fun series to watch.
We have to get to the finals this year because not that we're not going to be good in the future. The Brooklyn Nets are going to be really, really good next year. The Hawks are going to be a better team next. They're going to be good. They're going to push for a next year for sure. They're going to be good.
And obviously the Warriors are the team that everyone's got just kind of forgetting about because it's like, they've been absolute garbage right now. They're going to luck themselves into a high draft pick and then partner that up with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green for the next however foreseeable future. And obviously, we saw that how much Kevin Durant meant to that team. And I know KD was the straw that stirred the drink there, basically, when he was there with the Golden State Warriors. But at the same time, we've also seen how nuclear Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and the way they can play off each other on an offensive basis is. If they can figure out, say they luck into getting James Wiseman and they bring him in to kind of be that big, there. Now we're talking another team that be absolutely dangerous going forward, and they didn't have to go out and sign, one of the best players in free agency.
Wiseman on a rookie deal, huh?
Yeah,
just
exactly.
what they need.
100%. So that would be interesting to see how that kind of breaks down for them. But yeah, I mean, next year there's no promised money. The Nets, the Warriors, the Hawks. I mean, teams getting better. You got to take the opportunity. Right now, we're kind of in the age of dynamic duos. There's like the two pieces that are kind of leading the league right now, and not many teams are those super teams that we've kind of feared in years past. You got to take advantage of it while it's there because you know even the Lakers are going to make another move next year. We'll see what happens.
NBA team this year, if they do get back to playing games, that this break helps more than anybody. The Houston Rockets. Do not sleep. I actually think that
PJ at the 5. I mean, they're
I love it though because I think that and D'Antoni's been saying this for years, and it's a fact. In basketball, rebounding is energy and effort.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get out rebounded by guys. If they have 7-foot guys, and if they get putbacks and layups, that's fine because you're going to make it up by shooting threes in the other end.
Yep.
And it's going to be close, high-scoring games. And it's going to come down to situational basketball down the last 2 minutes of it. And when you have James Harden, you have two guys that can handle the ball that are both MVPs, you give yourself a decent chance to win any game. 100%. So I don't sleep on that. I like that. And also I like the fact that D'Antoni says, man, listen, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out on my terms. I'm going to go out with the team I want. Mm-hmm. And also, if they don't get close to the finals, like Morey's fired, he's fired. They're probably going to trade half the team.
They're in luxury tax, salary cap hell. Basically, it's all about winning championship.
Fertitta's businesses are failing too.
Yeah.
That China thing wasn't good, but the China situation wasn't good because Morey running his mouth. Partially because Houston has like the biggest Asian population out of all the major cities in the South.
I mean, they have a jersey with a Chinese lettering on it they wore on a pretty regular basis.
It's crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
So, best Chinatown in America as well.
There you go.
They also
there we go. There you go. You learn something here on the show, one way or the other. If it's not our hot sports takes about the best Chinatown around.
Best food, man.
There you go, man. Oh man. But no, I mean that pretty much wraps it up here. I mean, we got to definitely get to doing this a little bit more often. We got the draft coming up this weekend, so we'll have some reflection to do to see how these teams kind of go. Which way they end up, is it the way that we want them to go? Is it the best case scenarios? Is it something that's completely off the wall? The NFL is one of those leagues where it is 365. We'll have something to talk about, regardless if it's good, bad, or indifferent news. And then, just looking at the future here when it comes to sports and kind of getting back to it. Can't think of a better thing to do but talk it.
I can't wait till we draft CeeDee Lamb.
That's all right. I was gonna say,
that's
the only person in the world just like pissed off and like throwing the remote.
Right.
I'm like, fucking Lamb.
They went and got him, and everybody's like, Eagle fans are like, you're a dickhead. I'm like
fuck you, man. We don't have anybody.
Here's literally my son that I named Carson 2 years ago. Take him. We'll take CD.
Right.
I can tell you what. This time next Saturday, I'm gonna like whoever we take, so it's fine. I'll
drink. There you go. That's it. Spin cycle coming in.
He's next.
But yeah, man. Sometime next week, probably early Monday or Tuesday or something like that. We'll probably link up and we'll be able to reflect on everything that happened with the draft and all that good stuff. So, I guess until next time, there. Thanks for joining me, Alex. Appreciate it. There. Thanks for hopping on, Christian. And again, man, we'll get back to this on a more regular basis. Appreciate it, guys.
My man.
All right, man.